I've got a little bit of you wrapped around my heart. I watch the little things you do, but you don't see me, and I want to be on your mind. Darling, won't you let me? I want to be on your mind. Darling, won't you let me? Give me just a little of your time. Won't you let me? What have I gotta do this time? 'Cause I love you, 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 I love you.
Durex is the #1 condom brand in the world and a leader in sexual health, is active in 150 countries and leader in 40 of them.
The brand is owned by Wright and according to Mintel in 2013, they owned 83% of the market share.
The range of products from Durex, in combination with their heavily supported advertising, helps them maintain a strong market share year on year.
Today we're going to have a look at the 2014 Turn Off to Turn On campaign, created by TMW, which was awarded gold at the 2015 Euro Effie Awards and shortlisted for the 2014 Cannes Health Awards. The American brand Trojan from Church & Dwight has been praised as America's #1 condom brand for over 8 years, and while they don't compete in the UK market, their global presence has linked them to the UK media. They portrayed a youthful image by partnering with MTV for the It's Your Sex Life campaign to promote safe sex and the use of Trojan products. They've also created a mobile gaming app, which was based on Cards Against Humanity, and incorporated humor, sexual health information, and sales promotion to reach their target audience.
So the skin brand, which is from Ansell, which was launched in the UK in 2012, is most commonly known for its controversial billboard ad, which spiked over 20 complaints from the ASA. These complaints were dismissed and then resulted in a 12% increase in sales. It's also well known on social media such as Facebook and Twitter. On Facebook it has the highest target audience of age, which is between 25 and 35.
There are some other sexual health brands on the market that don't advertise. For example, Boots, they have their own private label, which you can find and purchase only from their stores. Own brands are seemingly utilitarian and they're not that influential.
The campaign spoke to 18 to 25-year-old couples and lovers by showing disconnected couples at the beginning of the video engaging with their technology and leading into a positive resolve towards the end of the video in their emotional connections once they showed each other some intimacy.
This campaign was also targeted towards a global audience as it expanded through 56 different countries over 23 different languages. The advertising technique is to include actors from a range of nationalities and scenarios.
This worked well because it showcased the various faces from that age group for Durex's target market.
Another target audience for this campaign is to target environmentally friendly individuals, as this related to the Earth Hour. Although people associate Durex with sex, the brand wanted people to see them as relationship experts beyond just the physical. The advert's key objectives was to drive social interaction on the turn off to turn on activity, which ran across 56 markets with a 7-figure media budget behind it.
The campaign also aimed to reinforce consumer behavior, to engage the audience with current issues, and finally, to develop the brand perception.
Durex's creative strategy comprised of 2 phases. The first was to post provocative mission statements on their social media to jumpstart the conversation around technology and its negative impact on relationships. The second phase was to post a short film which called on couples to turn off to turn on. The video followed couples on an emotional journey to highlight the negative impact that technology is having on relationships and how individuals are becoming enslaved to technology more and more each day. The creative strategy and the use of the headline, "Turn off to turn on," uses assonance. The repetition in the vowels makes the tagline sticky and memorable. It emphasizes the topic and it's easy to learn.
The tagline offers a message with simplicity. It is short enough to stick in the mind of the consumer, but deep enough to enforce behavior change.
The advertisement uses commands to persuade their audience. Enjoy Earth Hour. Enjoy, a verb to get pleasure from something, commanding people to turn off their gadget, and implies to use this time for special moments with their loved one, preferably using Durex products. Command is a strong tool in advertising as it provokes or invites the customer to buy into the product.
Music can affect people's attitudes towards a social issue. A message about a social concern, communicated through a song with musical accompaniment, leads to greater attitude change than the same message simply spoken or even sung. Following the launch of the video, people loved the soundtrack and were keen to know who the vocalist was. Durex licensed the original track I Can Help Myself by the Four Tops, then re-recorded their own, more emotional version with Irish singer Fiona O'Kane. She even launched a live recording on her profile on YouTube. At the pivotal point, the uplift in the instrumental helped to give the film its positive result.
Earth Hour is a global movement which brings millions of people together across the world to call for greater action, which encourages people to turn off lights and electrical devices for an hour a day in order to highlight the issue of climate change.
At the heart of the campaign was an insight that technology was having negative impacts on our sex lives and relationships. We uncovered some astonishing facts.
75% of people use a phone when they're having a meal with their partners. 40% think technology has a negative impact on their relationships, and 30% are distracted by technology when they're being intimate.
The hour of darkness was an ideal time to call on couples to escape the screens and to have fun in the dark.
Durex use the very medium people nowadays are obsessed with to make them realise that technology is getting in the way of real connection. Social networks enabled the message to be broadcasted globally and translated into different languages. Durex realised that their target audience was spending less time on traditional media and that online was the main channel to access them. Online allowed the brand to control their campaign, track the amount of views and responses, and enabled them to adapt to the results they found. This is something that would not have been achievable elsewhere. Another reason why online was a preference to this campaign was the opportunity for open dialogue, the chance for Durex to participate in personal conversations with their customers.
Among the best ads to drive multitaskers to a brand's website are action-focused ads. It turns out that those ads that urge people to go online actually accomplish it to a great extent. If that's so, we can assume that the same could work in reverse, to drive an online audience offline. The core message here is that it brings partners together, thus leading to sexual health purchases and a newfound perception of Durex in the real world.
Like all forms of advertising media, online communications are subject to clutter, meaning that there are too many adverts for the consumer to digest, which might result in messages being closed or unnoticed. This type of advertising has often been ignored by potential customers, which makes it difficult for Durex to determine whether social media initiatives translate into real consumer leads.
Advertising on social networks can be effective when it is accepted by its users, but the perception of excessive commercialization could result in user abandonment. This was a risk Durex took when launching their campaign entirely on social media. The advertising effort ran over the course of 3 consecutive weeks across all channels. Durex utilised a concentrated advertising schedule that uses repetitive frequency around a singular event, Earth Hour. In those 3 weeks, there were a total of 3 YouTube videos published, 23 Facebook posts and 55 Twitter posts. Durex says to be meaningful, those metrics needed to translate to key brand KPIs. Nielsen research showed that brand likability went up by 2,000 base points from an already high starting point. Brand recommendation increased by 1,900 points and purchase intent went up by 2,000 points. And most importantly, it inspired consumers to connect more with their partners up to 1,500 points.
Following this unprecedented international response, Durex developed an app that offers a simple solution. It synchronizes couples' phones together so that both will go into hibernation mode at the same time. The Durex Connect app is a user-friendly way to synchronize your smartphone with your partners so that neither can renege on the promise of dedicated tech-free connection. The 2015 Connect campaign urges people to disconnect from tech in favor of real connections as the brand attempts to replicate its turn-off to turn-on campaign. The online video, in which people respond to the idea that the solution to sex problems is by simply using the off button, has been a huge success, getting over 21 million views on YouTube in under 1 week. Connect was named by Forbes magazine as one of the top 10 campaigns of 2015.
Do Not Disturb is a social experiment that took 6 couples to a dream holiday in Sri Lanka and forced half of them to leave their phones and laptops behind on their first day at the hotel. The idea was to highlight how the removal of digital distractions can help holidaying couples connect, with the condom brand protecting them from any unwelcome external surprises.
Durex has been studying sex for a number of years. The brand is known, fun, because of its entertaining marketing communication, and several ads which varied from outright controversial and rib-tickling funny. Durex has a strong presence on social media websites through advertising their products on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. The Turn Off to Turn On campaign was the influence for future campaigns which launched in 2015 and 2016. The 2015 campaign was called Connect, and then the 2016 was Do Not Disturb. Studies show that analog, non-verbal messages have more meaning in a biological perspective, can actually trigger emotional behaviour. Digital, verbal messages convey literal meaning and can instant response when appropriately decoded by receiver.
Reformed eclectic theories in a digital era use these communication elements in the persuasion go-to model, which looks at guiding the customer to find out more about the unique selling points. The Salience Talked About model, which focuses on setting the brand apart from the rest and using advertisements as a conversational piece. And the sales promotion/do model, which is directed at increasing sales by drawing customers to promotions and price benefits.
And lastly, the reformed involvement play theory, which best applies to this campaign, uses analog messages to engage consumers over mutual values in digital messages to elicit action-based engagement for consumers.
Durex used these in conjunction, which helped them veer away from the use of expected analogous use of nudity in sex appeal, which has a low impact on recall according to research, and showcased a more effective non-sexual illustration that suggests sexual intimacy to better reach brand recall. The use of a digital hashtag went on to spark online user-generated content.
The cognitive processing model. We've chosen to use this model as it's been widely used in research both by academics and advertising practitioners. The model appropriately helps us to determine the different types of responses evoked by the message relayed on the Turn Off to Turn On campaign, and how these responses relate to attitudes towards the ad, brand attitudes, and purchase intentions. We did also look into applying the Petty and Capicchio elaboration likelihood model, which is a framework for understanding attitudes formation and change with regard to products and services. However, we found several limitations, including that the model uses peripheral cues that have been considered cognitive shortcuts and do not fully comprehend the receiver's cognitive process. The first part of this model is exposure to the advert. Now, Durex used 3 different channels for the Turn Off to Turn On campaign: YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter.
And while they didn't post to Instagram, users generated their own content in the Instagram space following these advertisements.
Source-orientated thoughts. This is to do with message acceptance. If, for example, the receiver distrusts the ad, this is known as source derogation. It may occur in individuals that don't trust Durex as a brand, if, say, they have negative associations with the brand itself, or do not feel so comfortable with the association of sex within the ad. However, a suggested way to overcome resistance to persuasion, or source derogation, is to create ads that prevent recipients from discovering what the product is being advertised until they have either formed positive attitudes towards the ad itself or to the attributes of what they have later discovered to be the product advertised.
Unlike other Durex campaigns, the brand isn't mentioned until the end of the ad, nor is there nudity or any inappropriate scenes that might reveal what is being advertised. Therefore, it is less likely the receiver will experience source derogation and be more accepting to the advert, which is referred to as source booster. It was vital for Durex to ensure, during planning stages of the campaign, that the receiver experiences a booster effect in order for them to accept the message.
Product message thoughts. This is made up of 2 parts: counter arguments and supporter arguments. Counter-arguments occur when the receiver disagrees with what the ad is saying. In the Durex ad, this may have occurred in receivers that don't often use technology or are unwilling to admit to him or herself that tech is causing them disruption in the relationship. The final component of cognitive responses is ad execution thoughts. This relates to the thoughts an individual may have about the overall design and impact of the ad. The thoughts that the receiver may have had towards the turn-off to turn-on campaign may not have necessarily been product related, especially as the advert did not obviously show that it was a Durex ad.
Instead, it sought to show consumers emotion, and understanding their emotions might influence the way that they perceive the advertisement.
Brand attitude and intent to purchase. A substantial amount of research has shown that advertisements that promote positive emotional responses will likely create subsequent brand-related cognition, as well as brand attitudes and purchase intention among consumers. With this, we see that attitudes towards a message impact individuals' brand attitudes and in turn will likely influence the consumer's motivation to purchase.
It's evident that individuals are highly critical when it comes to judging the quality of advertisements, especially the creativity, tone, and style in which the ad's been executed. As a result of past perceptions and experiences, receivers will likely form attitudes towards the advertisement's message.
Although this model is useful in helping us interpret how the receiver makes sense of the ad, it hasn't fully comprehended all aspects of the individual's experience, especially the environment they might be in.
For example, the model doesn't take into consideration the noise that might influence the quality of reception and feedback. This is based on the distortion of information. There will always be some noise present in the communication. Cognitive or physical factors might be the source that prevents full messages from getting to the receiver. An example of the cognitive factor is that the receiver might deem the advert irrelevant, therefore they might choose to ignore the message.
A physical factor could actually be disturbance made from noisy environments or distraction from other media devices. As we know, consumers often look at multiple devices, which means many adverts are exposed through channels but aren't actually seen.
The foot-counting Belden grid was developed as a product classification tool, which is used to improve the effectiveness of advertising planning. Durex's position fits in the grid somewhere between quadrants 3 and 4.
Quadrant 3 of the SCB grid is for products that require rationale but low involvement decisions. Quadrant 4 is for those products which are low involvement and emotion. These items make you feel good or provide self-satisfaction. These products might be considered as life little pleasures.
While Durex is using turn off to turn on to insist that they're a fun and playful sexual health brand, they might begin to veer into quadrant 4, which suggests that they might use out-of-house or point-of-sale advertising. However, considering the brand's adult product portfolio, to reach an appropriate audience, their best option would be to convey their playful side as a new element of their existing, reliable image that fits in quadrant 3 and uses mediums that work to reinforce brand loyalty, like television or even radio.
The best strategy to advertise these products requires a stimulus reminder for the product to generate and reinforce brand loyalty, habits, and repeat buying. These can be enhanced by using jingles and slogans that are sticky. Durex can use such in future campaigns to enhance the stickiness of their message. Television is a media choice that should be considered when looking at the future of Durex campaigns. Sexual health is such a big issue that affects everyone. On average, men and women are sexually active by the time they hit 16 years of age. This means that Durex can perform on a wider, broader platform such as TV and still capture the right audiences. Market Share discovered that the usage of TV advertising was most effective when achieving key performance indicators compared to online, print, radio, and paid search. TV advertising would only work effective with a small handful of brands that can capture a wide audience. Durex has this capability and should exploit it when advertising on TV. If Durex takes up this strategy, they would have to think about where they could advertise, because some countries have limitations and bans on condom ads on TV.
Thanks for watching!
And if you're wondering what to do when the power's out, we're guessing Durex has a few suggestions.